We are live. So, what we're doing is we're talking about Hobby Terrain by Cast and Play is all finished up printing, and then we're going to talk about support removal, and we're going to talk about display. I don't know if you can see it on the table over there, right there. I got a bunch of minis, and the interesting thing is I have the very first mini that I ever printed or painted. So we'll look and see how the very first one turned out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that. We'll take a look at the terrain that we got with Cast and Play. If you don't know what that is, which you probably don't, I'm going to assume you don't, that is a creator on My Mini Factory, which is a suppository, not that type of suppository, but a online store of creators and makers that do models, things for 3D printing, resin printing, fused filament, whatever printing, whatever it is. And you can, there's some free items there. Most of the time you're going to have to pay some money for those things, but they do have a winter sale where you can get 50% off, which is an incredible deal. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Right now it is 14:46 here in Korea. So in the United States, in the afternoon, let's see, 14:46 p.m. Korea is what time in Denver? We'll just put Denver, Colorado. Let's see. So if it is about 14:30, then that means in Denver, oh no, wait, Korea time. We're gonna do about, let's just do 14:30. And that is 11 a.m. the next day in Denver. At least that's what I'm assuming. So I think that's what Mr. Computer says. So I don't know if we'll get people. 10:47, yeah, 10:47 p.m. So it's late night, so we might not get a lot of people. Let's just put it that way. But we'll just continue and drive on. So anyway, those people that are involved in tabletop gaming or D&D or other things like that, what I ended up doing is printing out some Hobby Terrain and by Cast and Play, which you can find on My Mini Factories. So we're going to take a look at that, and here it is with the incredible deal of 50% off. That's the code, Winter25, and this has a ton of stuff. So if we go through here, they've got a bunch of, characters and all that kind of stuff. You can, it's a lot of stuff. But what we ended up doing is the Terrain Essentials. And they've got a number of terrains that you can pick out: ancient Greek, orc, setup, Gothic city, Viking village, all of this stuff. And so what I ended up doing is going down here to I did Wasteland Terrain. I did that one there. And then I also did the Cave Terrain, which is that one right there. So I took the Cave Terrain and we just finished printing that out. So, they've got all kinds of stuff there. There's tons of different creators and makers and stuff like that, but this is the one that we're just checking out, and it just appealed to me. So we finished up that, and what we'll end up doing is we can go over and we'll take a look at the print, pull it off of the K2 Plus. We printed it out on... We can actually take a look at this. So here is the terrain, and it's kind of muddled, but you can kind of get it, some cool looking features to kind of, spice up your tabletop gaming with some decorations and stuff like this. And this is all built for 32 millimeters, which recently I was made aware that the 32 millimeters goes from the sole of the foot to the eye level of the character. It doesn't include the top of the head, which would be, 3 or 4, maybe 5 millimeters more. So I don't know why that's a rule, but apparently it is, and I didn't know that. So now I know that now. But with 32 millimeters, if we go and let's take a look at a model. Yeah, let's just do this one. We'll zoom into this one here, and let's just go to the top and to the bottom, and that is 42 millimeters. So if we went from there to there, wait a second. Let's say if we go from right there to the base, we're looking at 32 millimeters. So yeah, terrain features are to scale. So it should work out. It should work out. Now, the interesting thing about this is when we printed this all up, this took 18 hours and 11 minutes, and it was 265 grams of filament. We used Polymaker PLA, and it was matte black, and it came out to $5.30 for what I spend to get filament here in Korea. Get it delivered to Korea. Sometimes I can get some good deals and stuff. Hey, we got George. He's up late at night. Howdy. We're just going over the tabletop terrain that I printed out from Cast and Play. So we finished printing that out. We're back from the gym, and we're going to check out and see how that fared. And then what we're going to end up doing is we'll go over to the desk over here, and on that desk, see those little tiny things there? Those are minis. And I have the first mini that I ever painted. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be very, very interesting. So with that being said, let me go, and I'll go pick up the plate. And since I have a wireless microphone, we can hear me as I go into the printing room. And we can take a look. It was 17 hours and 51 minutes. I did increase the speed to 125 after a little while. I figured it's just terrain. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And so now, as we bring back, there it is. All okay. See how easy that just came right off. So it's stuck on there, but it cooled off. And what I ended up using was hairspray. So that's like back in the day, people would use hairspray for their build plates so they would get adhesion. And wow, that just fell right off. Nice. Good thing I didn't like throw it up in the air or do something crazy. So what we'll end up doing is we'll take a look at this and we'll see how easy the supports came off. Because I know some people have asked me before when I do prints, how do I get my supports to come off, still support, but, come off really easy. And a lot of new people have asked about that. So usually what happens is on a brand new printer, you'll have a default for your models and the profile for the filament. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at that and I'll show you what I mean. So if we go over here to the right hand side, we have a profile for 0.2 millimeter layer height. And again, that is a default that you can choose. And we got 0.2 layer height. And if we have that, we have two walls. We did a 7% infill with adaptive cubic. And if we kind of look at the models, we can kind of get a little bit of a look of the adaptive cubic in there. And how it's not a lot of filament. I could probably, in all honesty, I could probably take that down to 5% and it would be totally fine because we've got the two walls. If we zoom in there, that's enough for terrain features. It's not like you're going to be sanding them or anything. So you'd probably just do a little bit of primer on them and you'd be good to go. But let's get to the supports. Because a lot of new people have some problems with supports. Either the supports stick on there too much, and when they remove the supports, it damages the item. That's not something that we want. So we did enable support. We have tree auto, and we picked organic this time. There is a default. Some people use tree slim, which makes smaller supports and use less filament. I've had some issues with that because at least on Creality Print, what ends up happening is they set the top Z distance to 0. And I've had some issues with that. So I'm trying organic. This is the first time trying organic for me. And we're doing the supports on the build plate only. And as you can see, we don't have that checked. We don't have that, which is support critical regions or remove small overhangs. I'm just going to leave those alone. And the top Z distance, as we can see here, is 0.25. Usually the sweet happy spot that I found was 0.24 because you can get the support that you need. It comes off really well, but I figured let's bump it up a little bit and see what happens. So, and we've got some supports that just kind of fell right off the bone. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much what we got there. Everything else is default except for those things. We don't have a prime tower because it's only one color, and even for the brim, I just put on auto. And so the base of these items has enough on there to adhere to the base, and it's not a big problem. What was interesting though, when we turned that plate up and all this stuff dropped off, or most of this stuff dropped off, I was like, wow. But then again, this quit printing around 12, and this is like three and a half hours later, something like that. So it's got time to cool down, so some of that adhesion goes away. But yeah, quite the interesting thing. So what we're going to end up doing is let's take a look at how well these look, and let's see if we can get one that's got some good supports. First, we'll take a look at the bottom, and you can see we got some excellent first layers there. We got some separation. We got our tree supports and everything, the hybrid. And let's just kind of see how wow, that came out really good. Let's do another one. See how easy that comes off? That is, boom. That is gravy. And let's do this one right there. You can see how easy those came off. That is great. That is really, really good. Boom. So we had a couple break off there, but not bad. Not bad at all. Get a little bit of stringing. Not too much. There's a little dingleberry there. And we'll do this one here. Boom. And we are almost done. Did have a little bit of stringing. You can see right there. See the right there? We got a little bit of a dingleberry there, just barely hanging on, which isn't an issue. We could just end up just getting like a lighter, a butane lighter or whatever, and we could just boom. So there is our terrain. That's part of our cave terrain stuff, and as you can see, we've got some real good, that turned out really, really nice. That is some good terrain feature. I like that. So we'll just, and some of these are just falling right off the bone. It's like good barbecue. And there's another one there. Turned out really good. And even on the overhangs, it's kind of hard to see, but right up on there, it is not bad at all. That is really good. So maybe 0.25 for that top Z distance is preferable. And even on some of these smaller ones, it is just so easy to take that off. And with that, check that out. So we got that one there. So again, some cool little terrain features. And that's something, somebody messaged me and they were asking about doing supports and how on, you know, the default support, it was really hard to get the supports off the model and it marred the model and things like that. So again, that's why we go back to that top Z distance. But you're going to need to calibrate the top Z distance so you can get support on your model. It's like great barbecue. I mean, just ding, comes right off. You need to calibrate it for your printer. And so for some materials, depending on what you're printing with, PLA, you know, PETG, whatever it is, what you can end up doing is, yeah, that turned out good too. Again, the overhangs, that turned out great. That you'll have to do a little bit of a testing, and there's actually a test files that you can find on Printables by Uncle Jesse, and it's an overhang test, and you can set the they have the top Z distance set, or you can get a blank one and you could set your own top Z distance and it'll print out a little model and you could test the top Z distance to see how much support you get and if that will work for your printer and your filament. Because there's a lot of different variables between, you know, kind of like my filament or where I'm at, because of there's things like humidity, there's heat, there's moisture content in the filament, so did you dry your filament and things like that. There's a lot of different things that come into play with that, but for the most part, you know, I'm using PLA from Polymaker. I throw it in a filament dryer and I'll dry it for about 5-6 hours. That seems to be good. And then I put it on the side spool holder, print, and we're good to go. But I'm here in Korea. In the summer, there's a lot of humidity, so that can cause some problems. So desiccant packs and the whole 9 yards, trying to keep that dry, that can be an issue. Let's see if we can get this one. Ding. That came out good. Oh no. I think I broke it. I think I did. Oh no. Again, it's got 2 walls, so I did break it. Oh no. You got it right there. You see that little break? And that's because of the just do a little bit of surgery here. Oh, it broke. Okay. Well, not a big problem. Maybe if I had 3 walls, but you can actually see the walls right there. And we've got 2 walls on there, and the adaptive cubic is really sparse as far as support inside the model. So with that information, probably what we could end up doing is going through, actually it's going to go like that, and we can get our little UV light, UV resin thing, and we can shine some UV light and we could patch that right up. We'll go ahead and set that off to the side. We've got some small terrain feature. It turned out pretty good. That worked out good. Tiny bit of stringing, which isn't bad. A little butane torch action and we'll be good to go. More plastic. These are just kind of falling off, these supports. So we got that one there. That turned out good. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you got that there. That looks out pretty good. That's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 1 out of 14 so far. We haven't taken the supports off of all of these, but we've got one that is damaged. And we'll just pay a little bit more attention to what we got going on here. And a little bit of tweaking. If you were going to do a lot of gameplay, if you're going to be, transporting this and doing lots of games and, putting them on the thing, on the table, back and forth and the whole 9 yards, you might want to do 3 walls. For me, it's not too bad because these are just going to go up onto the cabinets and display my minis. So, yeah, it's not a bad deal. George says, not bad odds. So far, we're doing good. So here's the other one. That came out good. So far, we have one broken one, which isn't too bad. This one lucked out. We didn't need any supports. So that's a freebie. Again, supports just falling off. And this has minimal supports on this one. But that top Z distance, 0.25, that is nice, at least for terrain. And check out that one, that came out nice. Nice. And all the first layers ended up being really good too. I haven't seen any problems. Of course, I watched it when it did the first layer. So if there's any adjustment that needs to be for that Z distance, I'll do that when it's doing like a brim or whatever. But with this, there was no brim. And the adhesion is pretty good, even with just the hairspray. Got a couple of dingleberries on there. Not bad. There's that one there. And again, all of these turned out to be like $5.30. Go price out some terrain and how much you can find 3D printed terrain and how much you're going to pay if you don't have a 3D printer. You're going to pay some money. I've seen some where people are charging 50 and 60. Like this is $5.30. I've seen kind of like similar types of terrain where people are charging $30, $40 for what I printed out here for like $5.30. So again, just look at that. It just kind of falls right off. There's another one there. Yeah, and it's got little brims on the bottom of these supports, but just see how those just fall right off. And then boom, that turns out good. These turned out really good. You got kind of a cave action here, so boom, and look at that inside there. That overhang is beautiful. Beautiful. Wunderbar. And this one, this has got a ton of supports. But with the organic, again, ding. These are just coming off oh so easy. Look at that, just barely hanging on. Like that. So nice. So crisp and clean. I damaged it. so we got a little tiny break in there. Seriously, really. We broke it off. So we're 2 for 14, 2 out of 14. I really should just get my nippers, because that's not really going to do anything except mess it up some more. George says that he always watched the first few layers. Maybe I'm paranoid that the AI won't detect a problem fast enough. I agree with you. I haven't had AI find an error yet. I've noticed it, and then I'll have to stop the print. Matter of fact, there was a print that I ended up doing, and I just ran it, and it's like, oh, it's good to go. The plate's clean, had glue stick on there. It's like, no problem. So I'm off and running. Like 30, 40 minutes later, I come back, and there's nothing on the plate. And the machine, it's printing, it's going to all the places, but the filament wasn't fully advanced into the gears to go into the hot end and do all that stuff. So the AI didn't catch that, which I thought was really odd. You think that would be the easiest thing to catch. Let me go get my cutters, because I think we're going to need that, because what we have here is we have this huge support, and you can see how it's kind of going through, and it's on this side and on the other side, so it's kind of wrapping around a thing that's popping down, and that's how we broke on this one, which one was it? Oh, that was this one. Okay, so that was this one. Okay, let me go get my cutters, because I will need those. Yes, yes. Oh, what fun. The printing room is nice. And the temperature in this room is 22. I have to drop this down to 18 because it's a little too warm. Alrighty, now we're going to do the operation game. So we will get our cutters, and we can get some of these little tiny ones out of the way. And what I'd like to get is the ultrasonic cutters, the ultrasonic blade or whatever. That would be good. I mean, it's not necessary, but for doing hobby stuff, that could be a good thing. Again, we're trying to make sure that we don't cut off any. So we have some stuff that's hanging down there, and we don't want to cut that off, but we do want to get the supports. And then we'll do a little emergency surgery. And with our little UV resin, and then with our resin UV light pen. Okay, I think we're still good. I broke another little piece off. But for the most part, there it is. We could glue on but the one big piece, we're going to have to repair that. And I guess we could glue this, do the little UV thing, so we'll do that as well. So, but for the most part, so 2 out of 14. Okay, I need to work on my support removal. But the thing is, it's not the top Z distance that is causing the problem with the support removal, because they come off quite easily. What seems to be the problem is you have a main support trunk, And then like in this case, you had supports going around this way and then supports going around this way. And you have the stalactites or mites, whatever the rock was hanging down in the middle. And so when I pulled, it snapped and did that. The supports came off super easy. I just wasn't paying attention. And so that's why it would be nice to have like an ultrasonic blade to, you know, vibrates at 40, 50,000 whatever hertz or something, and be able to get off these things. That would be nice. So we got this. I'm going to take a swig. And let's do the little stuff first. We cut off a few of those, unfortunately, because I was manhandling it too much. So on this one, okay, that one goes there, and that is the big one. So we need to do this one first. Now this UV resin is from Green Stuff World. It's clear, and which is nice. And then you just throw some of that resin on there, and then what you end up doing is throwing a UV light, and that UV light solidifies all of that, and it fixes your model. Let's go ahead and we'll do a little UV light action there. Ding. Don't look into the light. Don't look into the light. Remember the, what was that horror movie with the little girl and the family? Excuse me. And it ended up that there was the evil spirits and whatever were talking through. What was that movie called? They did a couple of them. And yeah. So there we've got our center spire. Kind of looks like he's throwing us the bird. And then we messed up a little one there, but we can kind of trim that up. And if you didn't, there was another one there that kind of went off. But maybe, oh, that's the big one that we got to do. It's hard with this key light because it's like it's stealing, it's dark here. I'll throw a little bit of this stuff on here. And careful. So that's not too bad. We did pretty decent. 2 out of 14. That's not bad. And it's just a terrain feature. So it's not like it's going to kill anything or people are going to notice and like, oh, I saw that there was a little repair on his terrain that ruined the whole game. It's like, yeah, that's not how that works. So, and then just because we have another small piece, we can that'll seal up that hole there. So not that you would notice. I mean, nobody's going to pick up the terrain on a game and be like, oh, the terrain is broken. That's a -2. I'm not going to play with you ever again. There's probably some nerds out there that would do that. But luckily, they're very few and far between. So there we go. So we got our little, I can't remember if it was the stalactites or the stalagmites that are, which ones grow up and which ones go down. I'm not sure. This one we're going to need a significant amount of stuff. So with this, because again, I wasn't paying attention, so you can learn from my mistake. I should have done this under the table over there, but yeah, we'll get over to the paint station soon enough. And if I can just hold this in place and to where it is lines up where the break is, we'll shine our magic wand on it. Uvarium, or whatever, I don't know. And we should be good to go. So with that, lessons learned on this, take time in removing your supports, whatever it is. And then if you're going to be doing it for display, maybe 2 walls is good. Maybe the adaptive cubic infill at 7 or 8%, whatever it was, would be okay if you're not moving these around. If you wanted them to be more durable and you're going to take this to a buddy's house and you're going to do a lot of moving your terrain and setting it up and doing that over and over again, then maybe a better infill would be, I don't know, like gyroid or something like that. That would have a lot more protection and a lot more infill that would give more strength, because gyroid gives more overall strength. So yeah, that might be a good idea. But with that said, lessons learned. I was just kind of guesstimating, and we'll see what happens, and it's like, okay. But that's where I would like to get that ultrasonic blade, because you'd be able to cut through this stuff instead of trying to cut it with nippers. The blade seems from those things to be able to cut like through butter. It is really, really nice. And the frequency in which that blade resonates and stuff is able to go through plastics and cardboard and leather and a number of other materials that are just like, you're like, wow, I was pretty impressed. Okay, so there you go. So I got that there. Got a couple of little dingleberries that we can chop off there, but for the most part, they're good to go for terrain. So yeah, that turned out really good. Not bad, huh? Not bad. Gotta love the UV resin with the UV light pen. I picked it off of Amazon. Yeah, takes AAA batteries, works great. Okay, let's see. Let's go back and we'll take a look at the infill that we did. And on some of these larger pieces, like that big piece back there. So we can see that when we start running this from the bottom, this is like the minimal amount of support that I would do, but I figured since the display item, I'm not going to be seeing a lot of transportation or things like that. But we can see that that is not as solid as some of the other infills. So let's take this down, and because you see how that goes up and it goes into the triangle type thing. But let's go back to our supports over here, and we'll still leave it at organic, but we want, where is it, style? No, that's it. What are we looking at? Supports, tree, auto. Top Z distance 0.25. Seriously. What is the percent infill? There we go. Yeah, it's on that button, strength. Imagine that. So we did 2 walls on this. I think 2 walls are enough for this. I mean, on the bottom, there's a little bit of, tiny little bit of flex in there that you can feel, but you can actually feel where the line of the support, the adaptive cubic, is going on the bottom. So in those wide areas that we have, you can actually feel that, and it has a little bit of a give. So the 2 walls I think would be good enough. Maybe 3. I would stick with 2, and then when we get to the infill density, we did 7%. But that's a lot of open spaces in that area. Now granted, it's a small model, but it's still, you can feel that flex on the bottom. And with the contour of the item itself, it's not that big of a deal because you've got, it just kind of builds up and you get some strength there. So with adaptive cubic, I think what the grid is the default. So let's take a look at what grid would be at 7%, and we'll see how that goes. Today was chest and back day. Yeah. Chest and back day really pushed it, and the weekend's coming up. So let's go back and we'll see. Okay, so now we can see on, let me get over here so I can get to my mouse, move this terrain. So now we can see that we've got smaller spaces because the difference between the adaptive cubic and the grid that we have here, that is pretty good. So we get a lot more strength with that. But if we wanted to go with my other favorite, which is gyroid, the thing with grid is that your print head, your nozzle is going to go in this direction, and then it's going to go in this direction, and it's going to cross these lines. So if there's any, probably these days, it's not that big of a deal. You don't have that problem because we have automatic bed leveling and the whole 9 yards, and it's less of a problem than what it used to be a long time ago. A long time ago, the nozzle could catch on those crossways, and it would nick, and that could cause some problems with your print. Not so much these days, but still I'm old enough to remember that happening and being a problem, so I wasn't really happy with that, so I would go with gyroid. Now the gyroid is an infill to where you're not going to have like a line of filaments and then another line of filament where the nozzle could maybe hit that other line support of filament. So going and doing the grid thing, kind of doing that intersection, possibly hitting the line down below it. You don't do that with the gyroid. With the gyroid, it's a continuous line and it just changes. So you get some real good strength in pretty much all directions, and you should have a smaller, yeah, we do. So see how we have a smaller distance within these areas. And let's just take a look at this. We'll see if we can play this out. Let's zoom in here. And boom. So notice now it's starting to do, and it's one continuous line. So it's not crossing over against some other support lines that have been laid. So that's the great thing about gyroid, is you notice that it's not going over the lines of other filaments. So there's no way that the nozzle is going to catch or drag as it would with the grid infill. So yeah, this is kind of good. And if it continues on, let's go ahead. If we continue on with this, it'll just continue. Let's see if we can get back over here. And if we notice, it's just a continuous line, and it just kind of morphs. So it's this weird geometric pattern, but it doesn't cross over each other. So again, the chances of you hitting the nozzle on another support line are zero, basically. So the cool thing about this is we kind of look at this, we can see how that changes with that support. So there, check that out. We got that. And then it kind of goes through, and you can see how it morphs, and we get lines in both ways, but they don't intersect each other or cross over themselves. So we get a real good infill with this, even at 7%. Now it's going to be more than with the adaptive cubic. And come on, get up there. Let's get with it. Okay. Get that back up there. Okay, we're going to do that. So with this, when we slice this plate up, we're looking at 278 grams, 19 hours and 48 minutes. It's $5.58, where before it was like $5.30 or 33 cents, whatever it is. So the difference is not significant, but you're going to get a lot stronger infill and a lot more density, the support within the model itself. So you wouldn't have as many problems like we did with this, because right at that area, matter of fact, let's pull that one up. Where is that? Get that out of the way. We'll see if we can find that one that we did, which is right here, I think. No, that's not it. Let's go back to prepare. Maybe you can find it better that way. And where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's got the one. Oh, there it is. So it's this one right here. So notice how there's no, it's kind of an odd shape, but right up on this stem here that we have with the rock formation, if we look at this, and take a look at that, and as we go down, we get right there, and that's the stem, and we can see we've got a little bit more support for that than we did with the adaptive cubic. And so you can see how we've actually got, instead of just like one line across or whatever, we've got more supports reinforcing that small piece there. So as you can see how that morphs and then goes in and gets bigger and bigger. So we've got more support material. So with the gyroid, you're really going to end up with more dense support on the inside, which would probably minimize this from being broken. Of course, that's also contingent upon me not rough handling it. But yeah, I mean, so that's some things to take into consideration. So lesson learned. And then, yeah, but other than that, it turned out great. We got 14 pieces of terrain that are going to be great. So whenever you have things like this, or you have these things that are hanging down, be careful on where those are at. And especially if you have supports that go up in a tree support, and some go on one side and some go on the other, and you have those pieces in the middle, as you bring that out, yeah, it'll break just like what I did. Yeah, it broke those things. So that's when you have to get your nippers. That's where an ultrasonic blade would be really, really nice. So, yeah. With that said, yeah, 18, 19 hours. So on this one with the gyroid, that was going to be what, 19 hours and 48 minutes? Yeah, 19 hours and 48 minutes. And that's at 100% speed. Usually once I get the first layers down on something like this that I'm not super concerned about, I know it's going to print at 100%. I know it'll print at 125% at ultra fast. We could probably knock an hour off of that, maybe an hour and a half doing that, and we would still come out with good results. With this one, when we did the adaptive cubic, I ran it at 125, and I think we dropped an hour off of it, an hour and a few minutes or whatever. So again, your mileage may vary, but in all honesty, if it takes 18 hours to run this, I'm not under a huge deadline. It's not like I'm doing commission work or anything. It's just, I was at the gym, it'll print. I just wanted to see what would happen if I went to ultra fast speed. So, yeah. Let's move all this stuff. And with that, I can show you the very first mini I painted. Yeah. The very first one. And so we'll get over here. And I guess we could turn on the tablet. Hopefully this will, because remember the other day we did the tablet thing and it ends up, it was, okay, hey, we got it, it popped up. Had to update all that stuff. We had technical difficulties earlier today. And we did another one and things were better. The joys of live streaming. And I cleaned up my desk a little bit, my paint station. So that's a bonus. That was a Christmas bonus. But these will work out pretty good for, do I need anything else? Let's put this away. And we will sit down and get to business. Oh, that's right. I should probably go to paint station like that. And we got to play with this a little bit. You can kind of do that. Maybe I can do some adjustment a little bit. I'll just do a little bit of a change here. Kind of change some stuff up there. I think we're good. So on my monitor tablet, I can still read the comments, and it is just now catching up. Okay, so we've got a number of miniatures here, Warhammer-ish. And this guy here is miniature number 1. This was the very first miniature that I ended up printing. Or not printing, but painting. Again, this is an official Warhammer miniature. And you can see that was my very first one. So you can get the little gold Aquila on there. Not too bad for a first, but not that way, this way, and this way. So yeah, pretty decent. I would say that is really good. Of course, the Grimdark kind of helps with that aspect, and that you can keep it grungy. So that was number 1, and this one was later. That turned out good. I'm not sure what that one was. This one was number 2. And let's see if we can get a little bit of light there, make it so you can see what's going on. So this was number 2. And again, a little grimdark action, turned out well. And then we had 4, we had 5. 5 we did a little bit of a different color scheme, as you can see there. You got the green eyes and the whole 9 yards. And this, I really had a good time. It was a little frustrating, but we did some good work on this, as you can see, and yeah, I enjoyed it. And then from there, we did some, I think these are aftermarket. These are resin printed. And I think I got these off of Colts 3D page. And then what I ended up doing there is kind of the red and the blue and the gold. The base did a little bit of a tuft and stuff. I think that turned out really good. And the eyes came out really good. And then we just kind of experimented with some other stuff. This was kind of reminiscent of almost like a Knights Templar type of thing. And with the cape, how that was all dirtied up. The red and gold were a good contrast. And the sword, I didn't get the eyes painted on this guy, but that turned out really well. And then I did the Green Goblin dude. So the Green Goblin turned out pretty good. With the green and gold. With his bolter wrist. Ah, no! Seriously. There's a reason these are all display. So there's this hammer. And oh, he lost his little antenna thing too. Oh no. Okay, back to the UV. Now, the interesting thing about this is the resin that I printed these at was kind of a brittle resin. I think this is water washable resin, and so that's why on this small little dip that we had there, that's why it broke so easily, unfortunately. So now we'll see if we can hold this on there. It's just going to be like that. And a little bit of UV light. And voila. It is a little bit off. And so we're going to have to throw a little bit more on there. I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, crisis averted. Thank God for UV resin and UV lights. But the little antenna that came off of there, no. Is it on the table? No, it is not. I don't think it is. Is it on the floor? Oh, yep, there it is. Seriously, the joys of live streaming from the Varied Life channel. I've been on a string of repairing stuff. Have y'all noticed that? And yeah, interesting. It's close enough for government work. I'll just do a little bit more on that backside, and I think we'll be good. It is what it is. It is what it is. But I think this was water washable resin when I printed these. Matter of fact, I know it's water washable resin. For those of you who don't know, water washable resin, when you do your prints, it's really nice because it's water washable, so you don't need IPA to clean your prints. But the problem is water washable resin is generally really brittle, as we saw. So little dings, and then next thing you know, boom. So we were all repaired. So I just need to be careful. But the green and the gold came out really good. You know, we even got the little skull on there with some skeleton bone. That turned out pretty good. So, and then these are similar ones, except let me stand up and do this. I would really like to have something where I could zoom in or have a manual zoom. But this guy turned out really good. And we just used some sand on the base. Again, kind of like a powder blue. Again, with the gold, we got good contrast. Got the little wrist-mounted bolter and everything. And yeah, that turned out really good. So yeah, not bad. And then we did another one with the broadsword. I got to try to line this up. So yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. I think these turned out really good. And so with that, with 32 millimeter dudes, what we can end up doing, I gotta clean that off. With 32 millimeter dudes, what we end up doing, there it is, put that back, is now with our terrain pieces, you could end up having on your battlefield these little parts and pieces and things like that. And the good thing about terrain is that you could, if you wanted to make these bigger, you could also do that. You could scale these up to, you know, whatever size you want, and to make them bigger, smaller, whatever it is. You know, we could even throw some guys on top of there, you know, kind of do an Overwatch. You know, we could put a guy up there. So, yeah, just a lot of cool stuff that you could do to add a little bit of spice to your gaming by throwing in and just doing some little terrain features. So, yeah, it would look pretty good. Let me see. Hold on. Let's try something. See if you can kind of see from this point of view. Dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Kind of limited because I only have so much cord. But yeah. It ends up you can make some good dioramas on this stuff, you know, with terrain features. So yeah. Nice. Let's get you back in there. Hold on. I'm getting there. Yep, we're done moving around. You don't have to be seasick. So yeah, it ends up, terrain features are really cool. And I know some people were asking, not specifically about terrain, but they're asking about models and scaling, in that, especially new people, if you don't know, on 3D models, STL models that are in your slicer, you have 3 ways in which you can scale your model: on the x-axis, the y, and the z. So we're talking about, this direction, we're talking about the depth, and then the z is the height. So the y is, why are you going away from me? X is side-to-side movement, get off the X. That's kind of how I remember it from military stuff and shooting. And then the Z is, Z, you're so far away. I don't know. It just made sense to me. So let's get back to the desk, and I'll show you what I mean by how we can do the changing. Yeah, that turned out pretty good. I think those turned out good. Let's see if we can zoom in there a little bit. Yeah, we can see how that could add some zest, some cover and concealment to your gaming. Yeah, that turned out good. I think that turned out good. Not bad. Not bad, except for me dropping the miniatures. That wasn't so good, but yeah. Repair on the way, not a problem. So again, what we're talking about in scaling, this is something that I didn't know until I was playing around with it, that you can scale an item on those different axes, or you can scale it all together. So in other words, those 3 axes are synced together. You can scale proportionally in all those directions. Or you could just scale it in one of those directions independently. So let's take a look at that. That's kind of an interesting little thing. So we'll go back to our models here. And let's select all of these, and we'll kind of move these off here. Yeah, I know it's off the build plate. That is so annoying. And then we'll pick, let's say we can pick one that we want to extend out a little bit, or change the scaling. Let's just take this one. That looks interesting. Yes, I know something's off the build plate. Leave it alone. Don't worry. So we'll do our little favorite one that we did here. Just hit the R for rotate, and that way we can see this guy up close and personal. So now, if I wanted to scale this guy, I go up to the top here, and it says a little icon with a small box going to a larger box. And there we have our X, Y, and Z axes. And that's represented by the colors, red, green, and blue. So if you notice, we have red, we have green, and we have blue. So the red, if we pull this out and click on it and pull it in that direction, it's going to just move that along that one axis. If we end up doing, yes, I know. If we see this blue box here and we highlight or hover our cursor over that, we see the X, Y, and Z says 100%. But if we click and move, it will uniformly scale the entire model up by using that little light blue box there. So we can go through and do that. So let's go ahead and we'll just take it back down to, I don't know, 100 or whatever it was, close to 100. But if I wanted to increase the depth, I could just do the y-axis, and if you hover over that on the green box, you see that the y pops up. So now, if I did the y, click, left click and hold, and now I can draw it out. So I can make it as deep as I want. So if I wanted a little bit bigger that way, I could do that. If I wanted it to scale it along the x-axis, left click and hold, and I could pull that out a little bit. And then if I wanted to increase the height of it, I'd click on here, again, hover over it, you see the Z, and we could pull that up, and we could do something like that. So this has come in handy a number of times, not only for scaling something like terrain, if you wanted something a little bit bigger or smaller. I've also found it useful for when you're making an item and you need to make some adjustments, and you can make that adjustment by just using the scaling feature. Let's go ahead and we'll go back, and because I want to show you that, how we can uniformly scale it using the little thing, because now you can go through, well, you could before as well, but you can also input numbers to that. So we'll just go ahead and we'll hit Control Z, and we'll see if we can get back to the 100%, which we got here in this box. And now notice there's this box here that says Uniform Scale. So I can go up here, we have the scale, and then we have the size, and this is in millimeters as the size. The scale is in percentage. So if I click here and it's uniformly scaled, I could go up in increments of 1. Or what I could end up doing, let's just go ahead and we'll go back. Of course, it's going to go back to every time you click the button. We could do that. Or if we know the percentage in which we want to scale the item, let's say we want to do 115%, uniformly scaled as we see there, and we press enter, boom, there we go. It scaled the X, Y, and Z uniformly 100% or 115% in all those directions. So that's how you can do that. Let's say that you have a certain size that you want. Let's say that you want to make your size 100, and it's going to be uniformly scaled. Boom, now everything is sized up proportionally so that you get that 100% on the X, and correspondingly the Y and the Z are going to increase as well. Let's take a look at, if we click off of uniform scale, that's where we can independently increase either the percentage or increase and decrease the size in millimeters. So let's say if we wanted to just go, the x-axis, we can see that it's growing. All of these are staying the same. So again, we can kind of do that. Or if we know, like for example, we wanted the x to be 120, hit enter, boom, it makes that adjustments. The other ones are fine. So yeah, there is some stuff that you could end up doing on here that is pretty useful if you need to resize an item or a model that perhaps you didn't do in Tinkercad. I'm using myself as an example. I do Tinkercad. I'm not up on the whole CAD thing, like Fusion 360 and stuff like that. But kind of like the softbox that I made for my Godock Lite, the ES45. It's too bright, so I needed a softbox. They don't have one on Amazon or anywhere. So I made my own. I made it in Tinkercad. Well, the dimensions are a little bit off, so what I could end up doing is once I got that model into the slicing program, and I just needed to go out another 20, on that x-axis, increase it by 20 millimeters. That's all I needed. So I could go through, use the scaling feature on the slicer program, stretch it out a little bit, boom, we're good to go. Same thing with the Y distance. I needed to bring that in like 10 millimeters to get the fit that I wanted. So I just reduced that by 10 millimeters and independently, and boom, it was good. So it worked out really well. So those are some of the ways in which you can change the scale of an item as well. Let's go back. If anybody's got any questions, put it in the comment section down below. There's some things I like about Creality Print. Of course, they're rip-offs of, I shouldn't say rip-offs, but there's Cura and Prusa and all that. They're all, I don't know. It's almost like marrying your first cousin. They're all related really closely. So pretty much whatever you can do on one slicer, you can pretty much do on the others. Let's spin this around. And I'm on a Mac, so there's a little bit of difference. So there's that. If we go over here, this is really useful as well. So you have the plate number of the number of plates that you have, and then you can also edit and create a name for this. So if we click that, we can call this plate called Cave Terrain. And we do that, and we have that title right up there, Cave Terrain. The other thing we can end up doing is that we've got some buttons here. We could remove this plate if it's not the last one, and we could arrange the objects on the current plate. We can auto-orientate the objects on the current plate, which isn't, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You can lock the current plate, so that way if you have everything set the way that you want it, you can lock it, set it, and forget it, and that way you won't mess anything up. Hey, we got Star Killers in the house. It says, how's the train going? Turned out pretty good. Pretty good. Matter of fact, just for you, we'll kind of show a few things that we ended up doing. And some of the terrain. Yeah, we'll do that one. We made 14 of them. And yeah, we got came out 0.2 millimeters, so we got a little cave action there. Again, that turned out really good. We got some cave stuff here, stalactite, stalagmite with the top, and we used the, there we go, that looks a lot better. Looks pretty good. A 0.25 top Z distance, and the supports fell off. Broke a few items, kind of like on this guy here, some of those stalagmites or tights, whatever's hanging down there. I broke some of those off because I wasn't paying attention. But these turned out really nice. And yeah, here's another one. Turned out. So this is a little cave stuff that we did. And you could paint these if you wanted to, or if you wanted to put a little bit of detail, but you didn't want to go full-blown paint onto this, you could do just some dry brushing on the edges to kind of highlight some of the edges and everything, and that would make this come out really well. Maybe we'll do that after this. But yeah, it turned out pretty good. 14 pieces, 2 pieces, I broke some stuff on it because I wasn't paying attention, so sue me. I'll do better next time. Okay, let's see. So we go back to the program here, Crowley Print. Again, if we go to this button here, we can see that we can auto-arrange the objects on the current plate. So we'll just go ahead and we'll press that. And these are off the plate, which I'm doing this on purpose because I didn't know this. And what we need to do is we need to get all of these, and we can move everything onto the plate like so. And now, of course, we get the warning saying, hey, you got stuff that's running into each other. We hit that auto arrange objects, and it spaces them out accordingly. So it's pretty good. If we do the auto orientate objects on the current plate, okay, so it actually stayed. Sometimes what it ends up doing is putting things not on the flattest surface. Let me see if we can get it to screw up. No. Okay. Wow, they must have made some improvements with the last firmware. But you can change this, you know, a couple of times or whatever. As far as the auto arrange objects, it seems to work pretty good. So you can do that. And let's see if we arrange them one more time. Let's say we really like that orientation. And when we do the slicing of the plates, none of the supports are connected to the supports of other models around there, and we want to lock this up. We could go ahead and we could hit this and lock the current plate. So that way, okay, now, wait a second. Let's lock current plate. Oh, it still will. Interesting. Wow, that is different. I thought you couldn't move anything on this. Or maybe that locks just the, if anybody knows, If we lock that plate, is that just going to lock perhaps this information, your profile? I thought that locked everything so it wouldn't move. Let's see, let's try 0.08 and see if that changes anything. Yeah, you can change it. I'm not sure what the lock the current plate does. I was under the assumption it would lock everything in place so that you couldn't move anything. Interesting. And customize the current plate. Let's see what that does. So we got the plate name, bed type, print sequence, same as global, first layer filament sequence, auto. Okay, so nothing real exciting there. I would never play with that. That's interesting though about the lock current plate, that it doesn't actually, I wonder what it locks. So if anybody knows, clue me in. So yeah, some cool stuff there. Cool stuff. Interesting. Starkiller says, I have a game of OPR Warfleets going on today at 2 p.m. CST and going to record it with my phone and try uploading it to YouTube. Awesome. That would be good. Starkiller says it locks the plate so it doesn't get deleted. Let's test the hypothesis. So we will throw in another build plate. And if we lock that build plate, and then we try to delete it, well, it deleted it. Is this just a Mac thing? Wow. Maybe there has to be something on the build plate. Let's grab this and we'll put that there. And then we'll make sure we're going to lock it. Lock the current plate. Come on, lock. So it's locked. And if we go to, can we delete that? Yep, we can delete that. So the lock doesn't affect that. Starkiller's like, oh shit. I know, you would think that it would lock the plate, lock the position of the models on the plate so that you can't delete them. So that way, you know, let's say you run a business and you're printing terrain, and then you could lock that terrain in there so that, you know, people like me wouldn't screw it up and move it and mess things up. So let's try, if we remove this, because remember, before we didn't have an item. Holy crap. So what does it do? Lock doesn't really do anything, apparently. Okay. I thought just like you. Starkiller's like, sorry, I was wrong. No, I mean, that should, from what I understood in the reading that I did, it locks the plate so that you can't delete it, and the models are supposed to be locked on there. Wow, interesting. That is, yeah. Creality needs to get, yeah, now I'm lost. My understanding from what I read was, let's say we, you know, because you have supports, or maybe you have a brim and you don't want the brims touching other brims because that's how you roll or whatever, because, you know, you don't want anything to cause any problems when you pull stuff off the plate. So let's say we've got, you know, you're paranoid about stuff possibly coming or contacting, maybe it's like you don't like your peas and carrots touching. If you do something like that and everything was good to go, you could lock the plate, and then it would hold those models within that position, and you couldn't delete the plate. But apparently, the lock doesn't do jack. Okay. Starkiller says, anyways, in the settings part, you can set prints to global or individual. Yeah. And that's something I think some new people need to know as well. I didn't find that out until later on, and it was like, okay, you have global settings, and then you can have individual object settings. So we'll get into it. Let me take a swig. I was a little dehydrated today from the gym. So let's say we've got this item here. Well, let's go over the global settings. Let's just do that. If we hit the global settings, then everything here that we set on quality, strength, speed, supports, multi-filament, and your other settings, all of those will be applied globally to everything that is here. Okay, so that makes sense. You know, everything's going to be at a 0.2 layer height. Everything is going to have 2 wall loops. Everything's going to have, you know, tree supports or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So let's just take like 0.2 layer height. So if we go here and if we click on these items, we see that the 0.2 layer height is set there. So now if we go to objects, click that objects button, the layer height is, well, the problem is I don't think you can adjust the layer height. I don't know. Let's try. Let's just put 0.16. Ooh, apparently it does. So under the objects, we can set a sparse infill density. Let's say instead of 7%, we want to make that 4%. Wall loops 2, let's say we're going to do 4 for this specific object, and supports are enabled. So if we slice this plate up, what we should see with the wall loops on this one item, we will have 4 wall loops instead of just 2 on all the other ones. So let's test this. Let's test this and find this out, because we thought we knew that the lock feature locked the plate, and we found out that it didn't. So Creality, you have some issues to fix. Let's see. Zen Ronin, welcome to the show. It says, I Googled it, and it says it just prevents the program from rearranging your plate. You can still manually move objects. Oh, okay. So you can't rearrange the plate. Interesting. So here, let's go back. I must have got some wrong information. It was on Reddit, so what are the odds? Some wrong information on Reddit. So now let's check this out. So we can see, and we can get into some other items here. So remember, this is the item that we did the object, so it's at a 0.16 layer height. We changed the sparse infill density from 7 to 4, and we did 4 wall loops, which we can see here, which we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that actually works. And then now, if we go over to all the other items that are under the global, we can see that they had 2 wall loops, and the infill density is 7, so it's a little bit more. But we can see that definitely with the wall loops. So you can make some different changes to individual models that are on your build plate by using the global or the object tab. So yeah, I don't know why you would need to do that. Maybe you need to change the sparse infill density or the walls because you have a part that is really small and you want some more, maybe you want to change the infill to give it more strength and durability, kind of like that one piece that we did that broke. You know, I would have increased the walls for that. That's a great thing that we could do. So cool. Alrighty. That is very, very good. And you can go down and you can do the same thing with the quality, the strength, the speed, the supports, all of this stuff under objects for the individual objects on your plate. But for the most part, the global, we're good to go. And yeah, I haven't run into a situation yet where I would have, no, I take that back. Actually, I have done that. There are some items that I printed where I did increase the infill density. What was it that I printed? I can't remember what it was, but there was this one piece on there where it ends up, and no, not the one piece on Netflix, not that show, the light action anime. The one piece that I was talking about that I wanted extra infill in there because it was small and kind of delicate, it needed more support. I was using gyroid as an infill, and so I increased that. So yeah, I remember doing that. But not something you'd probably do a lot of. But the locking, let's go back to the locking of the plate. Prevents from rearranging the plate. So if we locked it, again, let's test this out. Boom, it's locked. Prevents your program from rearranging the plate. Oh, so if we went up here to rearrange or arrange the objects, and it's locked. So we get the little warning in the bottom left. Oh, you're probably wondering what the hell I'm doing. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll redo this. and tell you what I'm talking about. Okay, so there is our plate. And if we hit the lock, that ends up locking the plate. Now we can still move these items around, but when we go to arrange objects that we have right here, it won't arrange the objects. And if we click on there, and we get the little warning sign that's down here on the bottom left, it says this plate is locked. We cannot auto-arrange this plate. But even though it's locked, we can move the items around on the plate, which to me seems like, and it even says this plate is locked, we can't you should, if it's locked, you shouldn't be able to move anything, in my opinion. I don't know. Zen Ronan says, I'm brand new to FDM printing, so I have to Google a lot. Yeah, I've been there, done that. Depending on the printer that you have, most companies will have a wiki page, and like Creality, I have the Creality K2 Plus, so it has its own wiki page so that you can look up all of these settings. It's a dry read. It's, I tried to read a lot of it. A lot of it I didn't get into as far as like individual settings and trying to explain. I hate it when they put an explanation that doesn't really explain what it does and what's the benefit. So for example, let's take a look at this again. So here we are. And if we go down, we're on global. And we go down here to wall generator. So this little thing that pops up, and you also see it on the wiki page, says classic wall generator produces walls with constant extrusion width, and for very thin areas, gap fill is used. So it kind of puts a little bit of more plastic into those areas. The Arachne engine produces walls with variable extrusion width. So the variable extrusion width, does that fill in the holes like Classic does? It doesn't. It explains it, but it doesn't explain it. You see what I mean? So, some of the things is like you're scratching your head and you're like, it puts extra in there with Classic, but with the Arachne, it has variable. So does that variance fill it in, or does it leave holes? It doesn't say anything. So, yeah, those are the engineer type people who they don't understand the user side of the house of like a short little example. If you wanted a solid wall with no little gaps in your wall, basically use this one. If you don't care about that, and you see what I'm saying? It's something like that just gets me about engineers. They're too smart to be users because they can explain things like nobody's business, but it doesn't explain anything in how it would help out people. So I think their own little stuff. So yeah. Well, Zen, you said you just got into FDM printing. What printer do you have, or what printers do you have? Let us know about that as well. So with that, let's go ahead and we'll put in another plate. And because we did the Cave core set, and they have the cast and play. Let me just go ahead and do this. So cast and play, they have the Cave core set. They also have STLs, the normal STLs, and then they have pre-supported. So in other words, these terrain features can also be resin printed, and they're primarily made to be resin printed. So I asked the question to Cast and Play on my mini factory, the creator who made these things. And I asked him, I said, hey, can these be printed out on an FDM printer? And he's like, yeah, it sure can. So you got to play around with the supports because you're going to do your own supports. But the slicing program is going to do that. And I found out that the organic seems to work well. So I like that. And the top Z distance was 0.25. So the supports came off great, except for the ones that I forced and broke little tiny pieces on the models. Okay, yeah. So we got that. It also has path. We can take a look at this. So we got some low paths, high paths, curves, or whatever, some stairs, ramps. You can make this stuff. I'm probably not going to make that stuff there. Crystal platforms. Let's take a look at that. So we got some more stuff that we could end up doing there. And some actual caves. Ooh, those look really nice. Nice. Okay, Zen pops in and he says, both printers are Elegoo. I've been resin printing for years. Me too. Decided to give FDM a try and got the Centauri Carbon. Figured an entry-level printer was a good first step and learning machine. Yeah, is it going well with the CC? Seems a lot of people like that machine. And it is indeed a great printer from what I've seen online. And on Reddits and things like that, there's some people that had some issues with it, but for the most part, generally, people are pretty happy with that. So, cool. Interesting. Let us know how that goes. You do a little tall now. I can change, I can change some stuff. There we go. I think that'll work. So yeah, that would be interesting. Let us know how that came out and how that's working for you. Because the price on that was a pretty good. That was pretty inexpensive for what you get there. Let's see. Holy crow, what am I doing? Okay, wrong mouse button. Center mouse button. There we go. Come on, Wilson. Get with the program. Big rock crystal complete. So you got a left and right side. So let's drag that in there. Ooh, that is big. That is big. Let's take a look and see what just do one side. I'm pretty sure it's just planar cut. Oh no. That's a lot smaller. Oh, it is cut. Okay, so it's got a little joining thing there. And it's a lot smaller. So it's got the big rock crystal, or you could do two small ones and print those out independently. Interesting. So we'll get rid of that one. Let's see, cave entrance 1. Well, let's go back and see which ones we would want. We already got kind of one with a rock formation. We got sort of that. Big rock crystals. Let's see. Tall platform 1, 3, 1, 2, and 3. Let's do those. Platform, tall platform. Is that what it was? Tall platform. 1 and 3. What is another tall platform? Small. Platform 2. I guess that's a tall as well, kind of. So we got over here, tall platform 1. Holy crow. Okay, so you got a lot of parts. So let's just do the complete one. And then we'll do number 2, which is complete. I like this. I like the fact that it's broken down into pieces, or you could have them in smaller pieces. And so you got complete. The naming is not crazy or stupid. So that's nice. I like that. Ooh, look at that. Tall platform has got all kinds of sides. Let's throw this one in there. Ah, there we go. Nice. Excuse me. Zen says, seems people have an issue with the Centauri Carbon because of the no multi-filament support, and they cancel plans for their add-on, but as a newbie, I'm not bothered. I can switch spools as needed. Yeah, there was that. Yeah, they kind of shot themselves in the foot because they set themselves up as saying, hey, Centauri Carbon is going to have multi-material printing. It still might sometime in the future, but yeah, they had to put that on hold or cancel. But it's not that big of a deal, I don't think. Unless you really wanted multi-material printing with a CFS or whatever it is. So yeah, you can switch as needed, and it's a good entry level printer. Zen says this train would be great for Star Wars Legion. Or Warhammer or anything else. You could do a lot of stuff with this. You could paint them as a desert, kind of have like Dune type stuff. You could do gray, or you could just dry brush them, and with black or whatever color filament you have, you could do that. I have yet to actually print anything on the Centauri Carbon. Still trying to find a permanent set up spot for it. Cool. Well, hey, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and then that way whenever you print some stuff, send me a picture, and we can show what you did, and that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, that'd be neat. Matter of fact, I'm going to put in my email, officialthevariedlife@gmail.com. So if anybody wants to send me an email, you can, which is absolutely cool. We've had a number of people that have sent me stuff and that we put on the channel and showed, like Starkiller has put up some stuff that he's made and printed out, which is really cool. I had a guy send me a picture of his smoked ribs. That made me hungry. And then other people have shown, like Ferrithus, he's done a lot of good printing and stuff like that. So just something pretty cool to see what everybody's doing, whether they're experienced or not, or like yourself, Zen, brand new. Yeah, feel free to email, and we can take a look and see what everybody's doing. Wow, that is big. Okay, that is going to be interesting. I like a little bit of more space between my models. But as we look at this, are we going to need a lot of supports? For that one, probably no. For this one, yeah, we got some overhangs like there that we probably would. This big chunky guy, might not. And let's run through that. We'll just go over some of the settings that we have. 0.2, 2 wall loops. Let's do 3. I mean, I don't know, we could do 2. 2's good, but it depends on the amount of infill that you have. If we do 3, we'll get a little bit more extra strength. Sparse infill density 7, gyroid. We were using adaptive cubic with these smaller ones, but on the bottom you can feel where there's that, because there's some large areas that aren't supported. Any cubic saves on filament, you get some support. But the other thing is that you don't get a lot of strength in all directions. So with this, we'll keep it at 7%. We'll do gyroid. That's a lot. That's a lot for gyroid. Let's pick this. Since we're talking about objects, and let's do this. So we got there, 0.2, infill density 7. We're good to go. We'll leave all that the same. Strength, 3 walls. Let's keep these at 5%. Again, we're doing the objects. Gyroid, I think that should be good. We're not going to do anything with that. That's all the same. Supports. Again, tree, organic, on build plate only. And the top Z distance is 0.25. Again, 0.24, 0.25 had real good results. This last group, we did the 0.25 for the top Z distance, and the supports just, ooh, great. Came off, got good overhangs, the whole 9 yards. So we'll leave that. All of that is the same. We did the supports. We're not doing any type of fleshing or infill. We'll just leave it brim type auto. We'll slice this plate. And that is probably going to be 20 hours maybe? Maybe 20 hours? A little piece of plastic from removing supports. So we'll let that go ahead and render. Yeah, so that'd be cool. Zen says, we'll do. I backed Malediction on Kickstarter, and the game comes with a bunch of models. I mainly wanted FDM printer for the terrain pieces. We'll definitely share them. Get back up there. Definitely share them when I get some printed. Funny you should mention that, because normally you print miniatures on resin, which I have done a number of those. And, we did stuff like this. We got this little miniature guy there. We've got a number, all resin printed. But then we ended up printing this here, and that's printed on the FDM. That's printed on the K2 Plus at the 0.4 nozzle at 0.08 layer height. And then we did a larger one. We did an orc, and we painted that up yesterday. And look at that. We use speed paints on this, but if this was sitting on the table, you would not know. I don't think that you would know. And again, this is taller than a 32 millimeter, which you have there for scale. So it's a big orc dude. But I don't think you would know the difference between, it's crazy. And then we're also talking, other people were talking about how you can buy nozzles, a smaller nozzle. So I'm going to order a 0.25 nozzle and start getting it down to like, what's the smallest that you can end up doing? 0.04 or 0.05 or something, I think. Yeah, this orc is FDM printed on the K2 Plus. And I think I've got pictures. I was really surprised, honestly, I was really surprised at how well these things came out. And it's not there. Let's see. Is it in the downloads? Download? Nope, I don't want to do that. Here it is. Yeah, that was it, the downloads. So we printed out some miniatures on the K2 Plus. So for example, and again, that's at the 0.08 layer height. You can see the layer lines, obviously, but this is after it's primed. We did black primer, and then we did a white zenithal on that. But that's not bad. And we'll take a look at like the hammer dude. And there is the hammer dude. He's got some stringing and stuff on there, but that isn't bad. That was better than what I thought. And here is the kicker, because you're going to clean it up. You're going to get the little strings off of there. You're going to do that. And then you're going to do some painting. So we did black primer. We did a white zenithal because we're going to use Army speed paints. And boom, this is what we ended up with. So it definitely looks like an orc. And This is really close up, so you can see the layer lines. You can see that it's kind of muddled. But for the most part, that turned out better than what I was expecting. And then if you back off on this a little bit, you can see what we ended up getting there. And again, this was a 0.4 nozzle. Throw some paint on there and it would be hard to tell unless you actually picked it up and you knew what you were looking at. I don't think the average person would know. I've seen resin printed miniatures, and the paint was just rough, and it's like, this is better than some of those that people are selling. So let's see if we can rock this over here to this one here. I mean, look at that. It turned out pretty decent. That's an FDM printed miniature at 0.08 layer height. Boom. Came out great. I'm not happy with the blood. I shouldn't have put all those blood dots on there. I should have probably just kind of, maybe have some blood dropping on the ground there, just on one side or whatever. I went too much with the blood. But yeah, that's my fault. But other than that, you got to admit, that turned out way better than what I was expecting. So we're going to continue on with that. And we have these two guys primed. And so the next video that I end up doing, we'll take these and we'll paint these guys up, because we have those guys printed in resin, and granted they're a little bit taller. And you can see I'm going to use the same paint scheme and try to do that. I don't think I did these in speed paints. I think that was before. So we're going to try to replicate the painting that I did on these with the FDM versions, and they're smaller versions. So I know I should have printed them the same scale. I was stupid. Careful. Sue me. I'm not a professional in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, I was pretty surprised on that. Now, granted, these two small guys turned out pretty good. We had one of the staffs on here break, and I had to glue that back on. And then this axe, you can see how it's kind of muddled up right there. We didn't get enough supports because I wasn't paying attention to the supports that I put on there. Some support options are better than others. This one that I used for this just wasn't enough, and so we had to put masking tape. I made a masking tape ball, put it in there, and it was able to support and get the rest of the axe made. I actually got a live stream on that, so you can find that. It actually worked. We were going to exclude it, but it turned out pretty good. Dave pops in, says, wow, on the Orc. Dave says that he's got the Bamboo A1 with the 0.2 nozzle, get some really good prints. Great for tabletop play. Yeah, I mean, that would be a giant in the world of 32 millimeters. That's tabletop ready. I would have no problem putting that on a table, and it looks pretty good. Unless you get really deep into it and get the magnifying glass out, you're like, oh, well, wait a second. Speed paints and FDM printed, boom. Worked out great. Concept Gaming pops in, says supports are a bum sometimes. Yeah. That's why it was kind of important going through and the experience that I had on the supports that you pick. And then, of course, the top Z distance. Some of them are set to 0. If you do like tree support slim with Creality Print anyway, what it'll end up doing is it will set that top Z distance to 0. So there is no space. So you might have more adhesion on those supports to the model than if you put like 0.24 or 0.25, which seems to be my favorite setting for the top Z distance. You get the support, you get that little bit of space, the supports come off easily, interface layer is default, so, it's good to go. Concept says, Merry Christmas anyway, bud. Yeah, same to you. Happy holidays to everybody. Matter of fact, we've been having a good time here in Korea. So doing printing and FDM and this is all of this that we've been doing with miniatures is Starkiller's fault. So it's his fault because he was talking about doing miniatures on the FDM printer, and I saw some other people doing it on YouTube. So if somebody jumps off the cliff, apparently I'm going to do that as well. But yeah, it turned out really good. I was really surprised. So if you don't like the mess in the mire and the smell of resin, FDM printers can do it. So eventually, probably this week, I'm going to order a couple of nozzles from Micro Swiss that are 0.25 so we can get some finer detail, maybe even 0.2 nozzle, and see. I wonder what's the smallest layer height you could get. That's a good question. So I think we're going to do that. And we're going to do some terrain pieces. We're going to print out some more stuff. So we'll do that. But yeah, the miniatures, I'm really surprised. Because I remember watching videos from way back when, a number of years ago, not that long ago, and people printing miniatures, and they are just fugly. Even at the 0.4 nozzle, they turned out fugly, and they failed, and all of this, and it's like, throw it into the slicer and, you know, print the base, print the model. It worked. So, it turned out really good, really good. Concept says, yeah, I've heard people using PETG for supports on PLA model. I just hate to waste filament. Yeah, but the amount of filament that you're going to use for your supports, is it really going to be that much with a 32 millimeter miniature? Probably not. Or you could do your supports in PLA and then have the top interface layer be PETG. So you minimize the layer or the filament waste on PETG, and you just have that layer. But then there comes the problem of that on PLA and PETG don't adhere well to each other, and then you're going to go back to your model. Would that cause a problem? That you'd have to do some testing on that. But yeah, I think I've done some stuff with PETG as support against the model because it doesn't adhere. Still gives support, but it doesn't adhere to each other. They don't like each other. But it just really, it takes a long time to do like a PETG support with a PLA model, and it just takes a long, long time. So that's why, and I'm not that finicky, I guess. I don't know. But it turned out really good. I was really surprised, really surprised. Concept game, true. But then again, I mean, if you don't have to use PETG, why use PETG? You know? I don't know. The cool thing is even if I don't use it or you don't use it or you use it and I don't, whatever it is, it's another tool in the toolbox so that if you like to do that stuff and you want to do that stuff, you can, and you can get some good results. So that's what I think is really cool. You can do stuff and go into this as deep as you want. So, yeah, fun stuff. 3D printing is good. I mean, the resin printing, you can't beat the detail on a resin printer. Because think about it. You're printing at 50 microns is pretty much the standard, which is an average human hair is like what, 50, 60, maybe 70 microns as far as size. So resin printing, you're going to get some hair-like details, and you're going to get some crazy-ass details on resin printing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. With FDM printing, you're going to lose some of those details like we saw. But, yeah, 0.08 layer height, that comes out to, I think I wrote that down somewhere. Let me see if I can find that. The difference on how many microns. I want to say 90, 100-ish? I don't know. me see. Yeah, the human hair is around 50 to 70 microns. And then at a layer height of 0.08 millimeters, how many microns is that? That comes up to 80 microns. So the difference between 50 and 80, it's not much. It's a couple, distances of hair or thickness of hair. Instead of one hair thickness, it's two. You can still get some awesome, incredible details. And that's using, the 0.4 nozzle, the stock nozzle that came with the K2 Plus and a lot of other printers. So if we end up getting the 0.2 millimeter nozzle, that's another question. What would be the smallest layer height that you could get on that? That's a good question. Let's see. .02 nozzle. That is the smallest layer height can I print with? We're putting this into Grok or one of those AI things, try to figure out the answer, which is amazing that we have all this information. Well, that's going. Zen says there are definitely pros and cons to both printing methods, but it's a really fun hobby if you take your time to learn and make sure to practice good safety standards. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're hyper-focused on getting the most details possible, you're going to do some resin printing, but you're going to have to deal with resin that smells. You're going to need some gloves. You're going to need like a respirator or mask. You're going to have to probably an evacuation fan to take and go through a filter before it goes outside and all that stuff. So there's some extra, like you said, extra safety standards and things that you're going to need to do. So, yeah. But then again, with FDM printing, you're going to have some off-gassing. Even with PLA, you can notice that there's a smell. And definitely if you do some of the more esoteric filaments, high heat filaments, ASA, ABS, things like that, polycarbonates, you definitely need to vent and have a ventilation system for those because you don't want to be breathing that stuff in. VOCs are not good. And the answer we got, let's go ahead and pull this up. The question we had was with a MicroSwiss 0.02 nozzle, what is the smallest layer height? And 0.2 is their smallest. Okay, yeah, 0.2. Could you imagine a nozzle 0.02? So that was my bad. Smallest practical layer height can reliably print is around 0.05. This follows the general guidelines of not going down below 25% of the nozzle diameter to maintain good extrusion, avoid clogs and inconsistencies. Some users report success down to 0.02, but this risks issue like under extrusion, jamming, finely tuned printer and filament, all of that stuff. Start at 0.1 layer and adjust down gradually while monitoring the problems. So that would be interesting. So yeah, 0.05, so 0.08 with a 0.4 nozzle, and we get the 0.2, we could go down to the 0.5, which again, that's what, 50 microns? You're talking about the height of a human hair. So you would get from double down to the height of a human hair. That is crazy. Pretty close to that. That would be crazy. It ends up, Starkiller says it's 2 a.m., so he's off to bed before game day. Alrighty, dude, get some sleep. Go kill him. Rock him. Show him who's boss. Definitely do that. Report back and let us know how that works out. Yeah, definitely catch you next time, bro. Good one, good one. But yeah, just so interesting. And the ability to print those really super small things with an FDM printer is insane. You know, you look back, just like I said, a number of years ago, people were printing minis and it was like, ooh, that's just straight up ugly. You know, that mini just fell through the ugly forest, hit every branch on the way down. But now you've got stuff. I mean, when we paint these guys up, I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised. I already am. I mean, there are details that we're not going to be able to see on here, but for tabletop gaming, it's 32 millimeters. You put it on the table, and if it's 2 feet away, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between this and a resin printed 32 millimeter miniature. You're not. You know, unless you're Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory or something. I don't know. Yeah, it is. It is. Concept Gaming says it is really amazing. And the other thing I was thinking about, can you print a miniature in TPU? So we talk about miniatures, and you know, these are printed in PLA, and we broke the staff on this dude here in a couple of places. So there, you know, the durability isn't quite there, but now the question is, could you print it in TPU or something that has more strength to it so that when you drop it, it doesn't break? You know, I don't know, carbon fiber or something? I don't know. Interesting. And again, I think these two guys, when we printed these out, if I'm not mistaken, it was 35 cents based on what I pay for filament here in Korea. So Polymaker, PLA, matte, type 1 each, 2.5 kilo spools from Amazon, shipped here to Korea. So yeah, pretty good. Alrighty. Yeah, it's they look pretty good. It's not bad at all. I mean, and for tabletop gaming, if you're sitting, I mean, the orc looks pretty damn good. And if it's sitting a couple feet away, it definitely looks like an orc. You're good to go. If you're standing up, and you definitely wouldn't notice. Zen says, yep, I follow the tabletop rule. How does it look from 3 feet away? I'm amazed at how nice the speed paints look on that orc, but I think it's sleep time for me too. Enjoy your stream. Subbed. Well, thank you. I think I'm going to call this good because we've been at this for a couple hours, and it's getting close to dinner time for me here in Korea. Concept says, did you hear about carbon fiber? Test habit. It's not worth wrecking your machine and is no stronger than PLA. Oh, really? Okay. I'll take your word for it. And we'll just kind of leave it at that. Marketing gimmick. Okay. Lesson learned. I will take that lesson and run with it. Wow, interesting. I'm still wondering about TPU. Can you print a miniature in TPU? And can you get all those details? That would be, I don't know if anybody's ever done that. Let's pull up YouTube and see if we can find. We'll just do a search for TPU printed miniature. I imagine somebody has, but no, FDM, PLA, calibrations and settings, but for like 32 millimeter, I don't know if you could do that. Here's one. So we got that one there. TPU, stop ignoring it, isn't tricky anymore. That was 6 months ago. Let's go ahead and we'll pop that up. We'll keep the volume off because I don't want to get a copyright strike if they use music or something. I actually had that happen. played something for less than 6 seconds and I got a copyright strike. Had to take that out. So PLA, dun, dun. So you're doing the calibration with that. All the calibration for that. And, well, there's a little bust, but that's not much of anything. There's no real big details on that. But a little bit of fuzzy. Oh, okay. Let's get back here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Interesting. Wow. I'm not sure which was the PLA or which one was the TPU. But is it TPU hates bridging? Always avoid bridging, use supports. Okay, right, yeah. That'll be pretty decent settings. Details on that weren't too bad. But for some of the stuff like the models that we're doing, I'm wondering how that would fare on a 32 millimeter. That would be kind of the interesting thing. And I think he's just kind of talking about some other stuff other than models. So I don't know. Interesting. So we got any other? Power TPU. Those are some larger models. I don't know if anybody is printing tennis shoes. Those are definitely smaller or bigger than 32 millimeter miniatures. I don't know. He might be onto something there. Maybe. And there's so much stuff I could end up doing. But we'll just drive on with what I got because otherwise I'll get squirreled to death. But I'll look more and see if anybody has done a TPU miniature. Let's just put TPU miniature. See what pops up with that. Right there, high-speed PLA. Trying to get a few filament, blah, blah, blah. Okay, high-speed PLA. Yeah, whatever. We know about that stuff. Minis, same thing. I've seen that. That's all PLA. I don't think people have done a miniature in PLA. They've done some larger models, but nothing. Again, PLA, printing with TPU. This is kind of a non-miniature model. I don't think people have printed in TPU. I wonder if that's because you can't get the details, because it's more like it's not really that type of a filament. So, but TPU for like cosplay items and armor and things like that, I've seen some of that stuff. That is severely impressive. So, wow. Yeah, crazy, crazy stuff. Okay, anyway, that's what we got going on. So we did some hobby terrain that we printed out. And again, we got it by Cast and Play from the, and I don't know them. I was going through and I just picked some stuff that looked good. Where is it? Cast and Play. On My Mini Factory, they're also having that 50% store-wide sale. So if you need or want to pick up something that you don't want to pay full price, now would be the great time to do it. But he's got a bunch of terrain features, and again, I bought 2 of the things on there from his that we printed out. One of them, we're going to print out some other ones as well, so that we can kind of dress up our little display of our various characters and stuff like that. So yeah, great way to do that. And if you're doing tabletop gaming, that is a great way to enhance your gaming, is by doing little terrain features. You know, we got the little cave stuff there, and those came out really good. 0.2 layer height, and yeah, good results on that. Throw on some dry brush. You don't have to go crazy when you paint it. I mean, you could just use this the way it is, or print it out in colored filament. So if you want to do a desert, print this out in tan. If you want to do gray rock, do it in gray, whatever. Yeah, the sky's the limit. So anyway, that's what we ended up doing. Support removal was really good, really good with a top Z distance of 0.25. I'm liking that for the terrain features that we printed out, so I'm going to stick with that. And even with the models, we did 0.24 for the top Z distance, and those worked out really well. So yeah, it seems to be the happy spot, the happy place. So with that, everybody that's watching, I really appreciate it. If you would like the video and subscribe to the channel, that would really help me out, as I'm retired here in Korea, and it gives me something to do. And hanging around all you cool people, yeah, I just feel like that coolness is evaporating off of you and onto me in some small shape or form. So I appreciate that. A lot of good people here. With that, we're going to go to the obligatory outro, and we've got my email address. So if you want to email me, I usually email about 1 or 2 days unless something crazy is happening, but I always answer my emails. So there's that. People have bought me coffee, if you want to do that, but really the very best thing that you could do is just like and subscribe to the channel. Don't worry about the coffee. Just leave that alone. Just like and subscribe, and that would appease the YouTube gods, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is grow the channel a little bit with some like-minded individuals, good people like you. And yeah, I'm learning stuff. People fill me in on stuff where I'm clueless or dumb as a bag of hammers, and you know, many of you have helped me out in that regards for resin printing, 3D printing, painting, miniatures, all of that stuff. Hell, I had the guy that sent me pictures of his smoked ribs and giving me advice on that. And I was like, oh, okay, I never knew that. So yeah, it's great. It's great. And if you send pictures, we can throw those up on what you're doing on the next stream or future streams, and just kind of have some fun and see what everybody's doing. I like that. So with that, Concept Gaming, Zen, Ronan, be sure, Star Killer, he's already taken off, and a number of other people. Dave was here. We ended up doing that. Again, I posted the email. We got some, George was here at some time. And we still got some people that are kind of hiding out in the darkness, in the shadows. And that's okay. If you want to get into the conversation later, or you just want to hang out and watch, I'm totally cool with that too. So with that said, thank you very much for watching the stream, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace. Peace. Happy holidays. Oh yeah, good stuff.